You ever pack a little slow and end up abandoned at a bus station? No? Just me? Cool. It was a Thursday morning. I was 15, staring at an open suitcase like it held the secrets to the universe. All I had to do was toss in a swimsuit, 3 t-shirts, and a pair of those flimsy mesh basketball shorts my mom always called vagrant chic. But I'd spent the whole week grounded, for a B- in geometry, and I wasn't exactly motivated to pack efficiently for a trip I was barely allowed on in the first place. That year, the family vacation was to Destin, Florida. Pastel houses, overpriced shrimp, live, laugh, love, energy radiating from every souvenir mug. My sister Olivia was already in the car with a neck pillow and iced coffee she wasn't even old enough to legally buy. My dad was revving the engine like we were escaping a hostage situation. 5 minutes. My mom barked from the hallway, already applying SPF like she was prepping for a UV war. I thought she was bluffing. Spoiler, she wasn't. By the time I zipped my suitcase and dragged it downstairs, maybe 7 minutes later, max, the driveway was empty. Not a car, not a note, not even a passive-aggressive post-it. I remember standing there, half in flip-flops, holding that stupid suitcase like a prop in a bad sitcom, thinking, they'll be back. They weren't. I called. Straight to voicemail. I texted. Delivered. No read receipts. I waited on the porch. For 2 hours. My neighbor, Mrs. Clemens, offered me lemonade and a confused smile. They leave you behind, sweetheart? Guess so. She laughed like it was a joke. It wasn't. That night, after realizing they weren't turning around or even pretending to check in, I wheeled my suitcase to the Greyhound station downtown, bought a granola bar from the vending machine, and curled up on a plastic bench with the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead like disappointed angels. I didn't cry. I was too embarrassed to cry. Instead, I rehearsed excuses I'd give people. Oh, I decided not to go last minute. Had a soccer thing. Allergies. Anything to make it seem like I hadn't just been discarded by my own flesh and blood for the crime of slow packing. They came back a week later, sunburned and giddy. You should have hurried, my mom said. You could have called, I said. We didn't have service at the Airbnb. Olivia chimed in, scrolling Instagram. I knew that was a lie because she posted 3 selfies a day, each with a new filter and a new quote that made Gandhi roll in his grave. No one apologized. No one asked if I was okay. It became a joke, actually. A running family gag. Don't be late like Caleb that one time. Better pack faster or we'll leave you again. Haha. Hilarious. I learned something that week. You don't have to be disowned to be abandoned. Sometimes, they'll keep feeding you, keep smiling at you, keep including you in holiday group texts, and still treat you like an afterthought with limbs. I stopped asking for rides after that. Stopped expecting anything, really. By the time I was 17, I had a job shelving groceries at Kroger, a prepaid phone, and a duffel bag always half-packed, just in case. College wasn't discussed. Birthdays were money's tight this year. Events while Olivia got matching monogrammed luggage and a promise ring just in case. I learned to keep my victories quiet, my failures quieter. And my expectations? Non-existent. That's why, when the envelope showed up, it didn't register at first. Pink. Glossy. My name on the front in handwriting that looked suspiciously like my mom's when she's trying to be friendly but still hates you. I almost threw it out. But something made me pause. Maybe morbid curiosity. Maybe self-sabotage. Maybe I just wanted to confirm they still knew I existed. Even if it was just to make sure I stayed out of the group photo. I set the envelope on my kitchen counter. Didn't open it. Just stared at it for a long time. It was addressed to me. But it didn't feel like it was for me. The envelope sat on my kitchen counter for 3 days. I'd pass it like it was radioactive, catching the glint of that gold script in the sunlight. Olivia Marie Carter's baby shower. The kind of font that screamed diaper raffles and gender reveal cupcakes. I didn't know if I wanted to puke or frame it as a reminder of how deep the family delusion ran. On the 3rd day, no resurrection, just irritation, I finally opened it. There it was. The usual garbage, a pastel invite featuring Olivia in a flower crown, cradling her bump like she invented pregnancy. A theme, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. A registry longer than the Declaration of Independence. Venue info. RSVP line. And then the part that made my vision go white for a second. In thick black pen, someone, and we both know it was Mom, had scribbled, Tell the disappointment we expect him to at least bring diapers. The disappointment. Capitalized. Circled. Twice. You ever feel your soul blink? Like your dignity gets up from the table and just walks out? That's what it felt like. I wasn't angry. Not yet. Just cold. Like the kind of cold you feel when you realize the people who raised you stopped seeing you as a person somewhere around the time they discovered your sister could do a back handspring and spell yacht in 3rd grade. I sat down, read it again, took a picture, sent it to no one, just saved it to a folder titled Reasons. Then I stood up, went to my closet, pulled out the one suit I owned. Navy blue. Bought it on sale 2 years ago when I thought I'd have job interviews with companies that would care where I went to school. Still had the tags on it. I held it up to the mirror and said out loud, "Looks like the disappointment's getting dressed." I didn't RSVP. Didn't ask if I could bring a +1. Didn't text. Just circled the date on my fridge calendar like a hunter marks the first day of deer season. And in the meantime, I made a few quiet moves. First, I looked up the venue. A local event hall called the Magnolia Room. Swanky. Lots of faux wood accents and overpriced lemonade fountains. I'd been there once, for a work thing. I remembered thinking, this place is trying way too hard to be rustic. Second, I made a call. To a guy named Marcus. Marcus and I met through a client job 2 years ago when I was freelancing event logistics. He owned the Magnolia Room. Said I had silent rage energy, and we got along fine. He still owed me a favor. I cashed it in. "Hey," I said. "Hypothetically, if someone wanted to privately rent the venue that's already booked for a baby shower, what could they offer?" Marcus didn't even hesitate. "Hypothetically, you offer to pay double, triple if you want the parking lot too. And if I don't want to cancel the event, I want to let it happen." A pause. "You want to what?" "Let it happen," I repeated. "Same guest list. Same catering. Just change of ownership." Another pause. Then a soft laugh. "Oh, I see. This is petty." "It's not petty," I said. "It's historical correction." He laughed again. "Send me the date and a wire. I'll make it happen." The wire went out that night. 3 days later, I got a confirmation email. "You are now listed as the registered host of the event." And the guest of honor? Didn't even know. The day of the baby shower arrived like it was any other Sunday. Birds chirping. Sprinklers hissing across manicured lawns. Somewhere down the block, a dad in flip-flops was grilling at 11 a.m. because that's apparently legal in suburbia. I wasn't nervous. I'd already played the scene 1,000 times in my head. What I would wear. How I would walk in. What facial expression I'd keep. Somewhere between, "I'm only here because I had time to kill," and "I own the building." I pressed the navy suit and shaved twice. Not for them, for me. It had been a long time since I looked in the mirror and thought, "You belong in the room." At 1:30 sharp, I pulled into the parking lot of the Magnolia Room. The same spot I'd once circled for 20 minutes because someone's dad parked like a sociopath. This time, I parked in the reserved spot. Because this time, it was my spot. Inside, the room was decked out in blush pink balloons and glittery gold banners. A table of cupcakes stood near the entrance like sugary landmines. The air smelled like lavender, vanilla, and artificial charm. I saw Olivia before she saw me. She was glowing. Not metaphorically, someone had actually sprayed her with glitter. Her hands were cupped around her bump, like it might float away if she didn't cradle it right. People surrounded her with the usual oohs and ahs. "You're going to be such a good mom. You make pregnancy look easy." I slipped in through the side entrance, quiet as a sigh. That's the thing about being forgotten. Eventually, invisibility becomes a skill set. No one turned. No gasps. Just laughter and music and tissue paper rustling as gifts were unwrapped. One woman, I think she was one of my mom's old friends, paused mid-sip of champagne punch when she saw me. Her brows lifted, the kind of recognition you give someone you haven't seen in years but aren't sure if they died or just disappeared. "Caleb," she said. I gave a small smile. "Afternoon." She opened her mouth, probably to ask why I was here, but I kept walking. Every step across that hardwood floor echoed like a footnote to a forgotten chapter. I passed the dessert table. Sugar cookies shaped like baby bottles. Cake pops on gold sticks. Olivia had always been good at this kind of thing, the curated perfection. Even as a kid, her birthday parties had themes. Mine had coupons. One year I got a balloon taped to a box of socks. "Happy Growing Feet Day," Dad had joked. I reached the gift table. Set down a neatly wrapped box. Pale silver paper, deep blue ribbon. Tucked under the bow, a small cream envelope. In black ink, it read, "From the disappointment. Who owns the venue?" That was it. No name. No congratulations. Just a little reminder. A paper scalpel. I lingered a moment longer than I should have. Long enough to look around the room. Take it all in. The curated joy, the filtered happiness, the subtle digs they'd spent a lifetime perfecting. A group of Olivia's friends glanced over. One of them whispered, "Is that her brother?" Another, "I thought he wasn't invited." And a third, too loudly, "Wait, he sent that?" Then I saw it, the moment Olivia noticed me. Her smile faltered. Her head tilted, eyes narrowing slightly. She said something to the woman next to her, who looked over with mild panic, as if they'd just spotted a raccoon in a ball gown. Olivia's hands moved protectively over her stomach like I was going to storm the stage and demand a paternity test. I didn't wave, didn't smirk. I just turned and walked toward the exit. But as I passed the catering table, I caught my reflection in the window, and I stopped, because I didn't look like the disappointment. I looked composed, calm, fully human. I looked like someone who had clawed his way out of the void they left him in and stitched a suit together from the silence. And as I walked out the door, I heard someone call my name, soft, confused. "Caleb." I didn't turn around. Didn't need to. I'd already made my point. Back in my car, I sat for a moment. No music. No celebration. Just quiet. Not revenge. Not closure. But something colder. Cleaner. Control. It started that evening, around 8:12 p.m. I was halfway through reheating leftover noodles when my phone buzzed with the first message. "Mom." "Caleb, what was that today?" No question mark. Just a flatline accusation wrapped in a faux-concerned sentence. Classic. I didn't respond. 3 minutes later. "Mom, I don't know what you were trying to prove, but that was not the time. We were trying to have a nice day." That phrase, "nice day," really did some heavy lifting in our house. It had covered for years of guilt, silence, and the occasional not-so-passive aggression served with boxed wine. I kept eating. Then the texts multiplied. "Olivia, that was so inappropriate." "It was a baby shower, Caleb. Grow up." 3 texts, rapid fire, like she was typing through gritted teeth. She even capitalized "baby shower," as if I had confused it with a demolition derby. I didn't reply. Instead, I put my phone face down. 10 minutes later, ding. "Dad, I don't even know what you were trying to do today, but you humiliated your sister. You owe her an apology. And your mother. Maybe take some time to reflect." Reflect. That's rich, coming from the man who once said, "You're too dramatic to be the oldest," because I didn't want to share my room with Olivia's hamster. It was always my job to adapt, to shrink, to absorb the awkward moments so the others could keep their sunny narrative intact. Then came the final boss, the family group chat. A digital junk drawer where empathy went to die. "Aunt Carol, I just think there's a better way to handle conflict than public embarrassment." "Cousin Jenny, maybe this wasn't the best timing." "Mom, no one's saying Caleb can't have feelings. But this isn't how you air them. Not when we're celebrating new life." That one made me laugh. Because what exactly had they been celebrating when I turned 18 and didn't get a graduation party? When I got my HVAC certification and was told, "That's practical, I guess." When I spent 2 birthdays alone in the basement after Dad forgot to pick up dinner. I'd let them have so many days. They just didn't remember any of them, because I didn't demand cake and cameras. I scrolled through the chat and thought about the year Olivia got a karaoke machine for Christmas while I unwrapped socks and a motivational calendar with quotes like, "Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard." I remember that day clearly, because she made me sit through an hour of her singing Taylor Swift while I helped Dad put together her new desk, the one she never used, because she decided studying was a vibe killer. They took photos that year. I wasn't in any of them. "Maybe take some time to reflect," Dad had said. I had. I was. I stared at the screen, scrolling past the texts as more rolled in. "Olivia, you really couldn't let me have one day." That one hit different. Not because it was mean, because it was familiar. That was Olivia's whole life. Everything was her day. Her dance recitals, her braces removal, her driver's test, her new car, her first job. That lasted for weeks. It wasn't that I never had days. It's that when I did, no one showed up. Literally. When I graduated from trade school, I texted the group chat a photo of me in my Navy work shirt, standing with my class. Only one person reacted. A thumbs up from Aunt Carol. And even that felt sarcastic. I put my phone down, stared at it, picked it up, put it down again, then finally opened a notes app and typed out a reply I'd never sent. You didn't notice me for 10 years. I let you have your day. I took mine. But instead of hitting send, I took a screenshot of the RSVP card, the one that said tell the disappointment, and printed it on my home printer. Black and white, grainy, but still legible. I folded it once, slipped it into a drawer marked receipts. Then I went back to the group chat, scrolled to the top, clicked leave conversation, blocked mom, then Olivia, then dad, paused, blocked Aunt Carol too, just on principle. It didn't feel like vengeance. It felt like finally taking off a coat that never fit and hanging it up for good. It started, like most stories do, with bills. Real ones. The kind that make your chest ache and your Google search is way more specific. How to stretch $47 over 6 days without becoming a soup. I was 18, fresh out of high school, living in the back unit of a triplex where the walls were thin and the ceiling dripped during thunderstorms. The rent was cheap because the landlord had beef with the concept of repairs. That was when I started doing HVAC work. It wasn't glamorous. No one clapped when I unclogged someone's condenser unit. No one posted an Instagram story when I climbed onto a roof in August just to replace a busted fan belt. But for the first time in my life, people looked me in the eye when I fixed something. Said thank you. Meant it. I liked that. I liked the quietness of it. The way the machines didn't care where I came from, who my sister was, or whether I made honor roll in 2012. They either worked or they didn't. And I either fixed them or I didn't. It was honest. Within a year, I had regular clients. Small businesses, landlords, elderly couples who always offered lukewarm coffee and conspiracy theories. One of them, a guy named Mr. Rowland, handed me a check once and said, "You ever thought about running your own thing? You've got that look. The I don't want a boss look." I laughed. I've got the my car might explode soon look. But the idea stuck. So I started saving. I'd take photos of every job I did, log every call, track every invoice. I bought a second-hand van off Craigslist and repainted it myself with a friend from trade school. It wasn't pretty, but it ran. Mostly. The side door stuck sometimes. But hey, character. I didn't tell my family. They never asked. The last time I brought up work, my mom had said, "So you're, like, a technician? Like, with a uniform?" Like that was a downgrade from being ignored. So I stopped bringing it up. Let them assume I was scraping by, drifting, surviving on energy drinks and spite. Let them think I was still the same 15-year-old with a half-zipped suitcase. Meanwhile, I was growing something. By the time I was 23, I had a 3-man crew, an accountant named Doug, and a booking system that ran smoother than most chain restaurants. I even had a little office in a business park next to a dentist with a water feature. When I signed the lease, the landlord said, "Most HVAC guys don't wear suits." I smiled and said, "I'm not most HVAC guys." He thought I was joking, but I wore one to every contract signing, because I remembered how it felt to be overlooked. And I wasn't going to let anyone, especially me, do that again. I never posted on social media. No flashy reels. No motivational quotes. Just work. But people noticed. One day, a guy from a local venue called the Magnolia Room reached out. Said their previous HVAC contractor kept rescheduling. They were desperate, had a wedding that weekend, and the central unit was on life support. I cleared my schedule. That job took 6 hours, 2 Gatorades, and a new thermostat. The owner, Marcus, paid me double for coming out last minute. "You saved our tails," he said. "This place would have turned into a sweat lodge." I didn't think much of it. Until a year later, when I needed a quiet favor. It's funny, looking back now. At the time, it felt like I was barely keeping up, building invoices by night, climbing through attics by day. But in the cracks of that chaos, I built something sturdy. Something that didn't need anyone's permission to exist. Something that, when the time came, would be louder than any insult scribbled on an RSVP card. It started with a friend request. From Olivia. I almost didn't recognize her profile photo. All polished lighting and soft filters, with a caption that said something about grateful hearts and growing bellies. I didn't accept it. Didn't delete it either. Just let it sit there. Like a voicemail from a number you've already blocked. 3 days later, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Hey, Caleb. Can we talk?" Olivia. I stared at it for a while. Thought about every time she ignored my wins, mocked my choices, or called me grumpy at holidays when I wasn't grinning like a trained dog. Then I turned off my notifications and went to work. The next attempt came through email, subject line. Olive branch. Who titles an email like that? Who writes that unironically? Inside, I just think we misunderstood each other. I didn't mean for the note to hurt you. It was just a joke. Everyone knew it wasn't serious. No apology. No ownership. Just vibes and revisionist history. She signed it. Love, Liv. Soon to be mama. 2 hearts baby. Like that little emoji would erase the permanent marker circle around the word disappointment. I archived it without opening the attachment. I assumed it was some kind of blurry ultrasound or an inspirational quote about healing. Then came Mom. She called from my dad's number. I didn't pick up, obviously. I haven't answered any call from them in 3 years, but this time she left a voicemail. Caleb, sweetheart, can we please talk? Your sister's really upset. I know things have been tense, but you know how families are. We say things we don't mean. We love you. We always have. Always. That word felt like a brick in the stomach. Always, except when I was 15 and they left me standing in the driveway. Always, except every birthday I spent watching Olivia unwrap designer candles while I got $25 on the counter. Always, except when I got my trade license and they asked me if I was thinking about going back to school someday. Always, but not once when it counted. I didn't listen to the rest. Didn't have to. The message wasn't for me. It was for them. To make them feel like they tried. And then, right when I thought they'd run out of tactics, came the one I almost wasn't ready for. A dinner invitation. From Dad. A printed envelope. This time, very formal. Like a cease and desist from the Ministry of Regret. Inside was an invitation to a family reconnect dinner, complete with RSVP card and a note that read, "We just want to move forward. Let's have a fresh start." The irony? It was being hosted at the Magnolia Room. The same venue. The one I still technically had a 5-year private contract with. They didn't know that part yet, but I was about to remind them. Saturday came faster than expected. I didn't RSVP, didn't call, didn't text, just showed up early. The Magnolia Room always looked different at 4 p.m. when the sun hit the side windows and turned the polished wood floors into gold. The caterers were setting up in silence, used to chaos but respecting the calm. I nodded at Marcus, who stood near the bar with a clipboard. "You sure you don't want to cancel the whole thing?" he asked, eyebrows raised. I shook my head. "No, let them have their moment." "You're just letting it happen?" "I'm hosting it." He stared at me for a beat, then smiled like he finally got the joke. "They really don't know, huh?" "Not even a clue. The thing is, I didn't need to crash the dinner. I didn't need a mic drop. All I needed was a clipboard. Because technically, I was still listed as the event's primary contact. I paid for the space. I held the contract. Olivia had requested it through a third-party assistant. The venue didn't question it. Why would they? The date was open. The host on file was me. They just assumed someone else booked it. And so I leaned into that assumption. I had the staff adjust a few minor things. The lighting, turned down 2 levels. The music, replaced with soft instrumental jazz instead of the cheerful family playlist they'd submitted. The dinner name cards? Removed. Completely. Just empty seats and blank slates. No hierarchy. No spotlight for Olivia. Just silence. At 5:59 p.m., the Carter family arrived. I watched from the private lounge upstairs through the one-way glass. A little feature Marcus had installed years ago when VIP guests wanted to monitor wedding setups without being seen. Olivia walked in first. Pink dress. Designer heels. She looked around, confused. No gift table. No framed photos. No welcome home, Caleb sign. Just white tablecloths. Floating candles. A subtle chill in the air. Mom followed close behind, holding a small pie like she thought this was a potluck. Then Dad. Always 5 steps behind. Always faking authority like a man who learned leadership from reruns of Law and Order. They started murmuring. Then Olivia walked up to a staff member, young kid named Devin. I couldn't hear the conversation, but I saw it unfold in real time. Olivia pointing at the empty space where her photos were supposed to be. Devin gesturing to a clipboard. Olivia's face tightening. Her head whipping around toward the dining hall entrance. Her voice rising, not loud enough for a scene, but sharp enough to draw attention. Then Mom stepped in. She put a hand on Olivia's shoulder, clearly trying to smooth things over. Then Devin pointed upward. To the lounge. To me. Olivia turned. Locked eyes with me. I didn't wave. Didn't smirk. Just held up a glass of water in a silent toast. She froze. Her mouth moved. Something between "Are you serious?" and "What the hell?" Dad walked over. Squinted. Recognition hit him like a pulled hamstring. I didn't wait. I stepped out of the lounge. Walked calmly down the stairs. Into the soft clatter of silverware and tension. "Evening," I said. Everyone turned. Mom stood up from her chair, arms slightly open, like she thought this was a hallmark moment. "Caleb, you came." I looked around. "Of course. It's my event." Olivia blinked. "You what?" "I'm the host," I said, gesturing to the staff. "Booked the room. Managed the menu. Even picked the jazz." Dad cleared his throat. "This isn't funny. I'm not joking." Mom looked pale. "You planned this." I leaned in slightly. "No, you planned this. I just made sure it happened. On my terms." I didn't stay for dinner. Didn't want to eat cold forgiveness with a side of performative guilt. I left them sitting there, forks in hand, silence in mouths. As I walked past the main doors, I nodded to Devin. "You can keep the tip," I said. He grinned. "Best non-wedding I've ever seen." Same. I didn't hear from them for 2 weeks. No calls. No texts. No half-baked apologies wrapped in emojis. Which was fine by me. I wasn't expecting some grand epiphany. I didn't want tears or explanations or a 7-page letter that started with, "Dear Caleb, we didn't realize." They realized. They just never thought I'd hold the pen. The funny thing is, I didn't feel triumphant. Not exactly. There was no slow-motion victory walk. No confetti. No soundtracks swelling in the background. Just peace. Like I'd been holding my breath since I was 15, and finally let it out. I still worked. Still ran my business. Still fixed things that no one else wanted to crawl into an attic for. My crew called me boss, and clients shook my hand like I was someone worth trusting. And I was. I'd earned that. One Tuesday afternoon, as I was closing up the office, I noticed a new envelope on my desk. No postage. Just placed there. Someone had slid it under the door. It was pink. Glossy. Same handwriting. Inside was a photo. Olivia, holding a newborn. Smiling like she'd never swallowed the word disappointment, like a vitamin for years. On the back, in pen, "Her name is Clara. Thought you should know. If you ever want to meet her, you're welcome. Love, Liv." I stared at it for a long time. Long enough that the sky outside went from gold to gray. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel nostalgic. I just felt tired. There was no follow-up. No baby shower invite this time. No guilt trip. No Bible verses about forgiveness. Just a quiet olive branch. And that's the thing about bridges. Some of them burn. Some rebuild. And some, you just choose not to walk across. I didn't reply. Didn't send flowers. Or toys. Or a note that said, "Congrats on finally learning how to say something like a human." I didn't do anything. But I kept the photo. Not for Clara. Not for Olivia. For me. To remind myself that I was never the disappointment. They just never bothered to see the whole picture.